As bitter opponents during the Cold War, China and Russia blew a golden opportunity in the 1960s to destroy the West. Today, the presidents of these countries are attempting to fix that major mistake. Russia's invasion of democratic Ukraine in February with Chinese support has served as a stark reminder that the world's most powerful autocracies have banded together to launch an assault on the liberal order anchored by the United States and its allies. With them comes a new wave of authoritarianism and threatens to divide and weaken the world's leading democracies. So how does this unlikely friendship aim to change the world? And is this friendship truly sustainable, or merely a means to an end for either one of the countries? Today we will be looking at how Xi Jinping might be secretly using Vladimir Putin. The threat that Russia and China pose to the world appears to have diminished as 2022 has progressed, and the nature of their cooperation has become clearer. It's not an alliance of autocrats, as we all feared, but rather a one-sided collaboration where Xi Jinping, as the dominant member, sets the parameters to advance China's interests. This reveals a great deal about the guiding principles of China's foreign policy and the potential obstacles that these beliefs pose to Beijing's efforts to reform the global order. There has been a long history of mistrust and conflict between China and Russia. Most notably, during the height of the Cold War rift in the late 1960s, these two countries came alarmingly close to nuclear war. However, Beijing and Moscow have recently discovered some common ground. The Chinese industrial machine imports oil, gas, coal, and other raw resources from Russia in return for high-tech products made in China. Xi and Vladimir Putin, the president of Russia, have also become close friends, with Xi even calling Putin his best friend in 2019. They've stuck together via their mutual loathing of American global preeminence, as they both view the United States government in Washington as the greatest obstacle to their goals. This is why democratic capitals were alarmed even more when Putin met with Xi in Beijing last year, and the two issued a joint statement claiming that friendship between the two states has no limitations. There are no forbidden sectors of collaboration. There appeared to be immediate benefits to China-Russia cooperation. As far as Xi was concerned, Putin's invasion lessened Western influence without costing China much, and Moscow received crucial political backing from Beijing. In 2022, China's top ambassador said that Putin's security concerns in Europe were justified, and Beijing has been consistent in blaming NATO for starting the war. The United States and Europe became concerned that the two autocratic states were planning a joint assault in Asia and Europe to challenge the West's hegemonic position. When Putin invaded Ukraine later that month after their meeting, the world's worst worries became reality, as many saw it as a Russian-Chinese war against the West. There have been appeals for Xi to utilize his influence with Putin to help stop the war. In fact, during a meeting with President Joe Biden in November 2022, Xi said he was highly concerned about the situation in Ukraine, but he also seemed to absolve himself of any responsibility to take a more active role in mediating a resolution. Beijing said it would like to see further dialogue between the United States, NATO, and Russia in order to promote peace talks. Putin has greatly benefited from Beijing's diplomatic support and Moscow's position on Ukraine and of Russia's place as a major power on the globe. As a result of the sanctions, some of the revenue lost due to the deterioration of Russia's economic ties with the West has been offset by increased trade with China. In fact, in 2022, the sum of all commerce between China and Russia will have increased by nearly a third, reaching roughly about $172 billion. On the flip side, however, trade between Russia and the United States fell by roughly half. According to Alexander Gabuev, a senior fellow at the Carnegie Moscow Center for Russia, the essential goal for now is to generate enough revenue streams to pump money into the war. This would mean financing the budget to feed all of the people who carry firearms and support domestic security. While relations between Russia and the West are deteriorating due to actions on both sides, China has emerged as an important economic power in the East. No matter how the Ukraine conflict turns out, the friendship between China and Russia will surely grow, as both Xi and Putin want to increase trade and investment between their economies because it will make them less dependent on the US and Europe. Andrew Erickson and Gabriel Collins, in a recent article for the Naval War College Review, speculate about the possibility of increased military cooperation between Russia and China. This presents a new threat, as allowing the Chinese fleet access to Russian Far Eastern ports and exchanging technology, particularly for submerged warfare, might greatly improve Moscow's ability to deter and defeat foreign naval threats. They warned that Russian military apex technologies could be combined with China's financial resources and industry to create an axis of despotism that would benefit itself at the expense of the United States and its friends and partners in the Indo-Pacific region. The events of the past year have proven, however, that even a no-limits relationship has boundaries. This is because analysts have begun to notice that Beijing has not offered Putin material support for the war effort, nor has it assisted Putin's administration or banks in evading the severe sanctions imposed by the West after Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Because of this, many people believe there is unquestionably some level of self-interest at play here. The theories seem to be supported by a conversation between President Biden and President Xi that took place in 2022. In the March chat with Xi, Biden cautioned the Chinese leader that there would be consequences if China provided direct support to Russia. This could directly lead to sanctions against China, which the country cannot afford because it is still highly reliant on trade, technology, and investment from the United States and Europe. And even though Xi shares Putin's concern about the European security, he has expressed unease over the conflict Putin is waging. According to a synopsis released by the United States government, Biden and Xi unanimously condemned the Russian leader for threatening to use nuclear weapons in Ukraine during their meeting in November. So, does that mean there is trouble in paradise for the Chinese-Russian alliance? Well, some analysts have concluded that Xi's fluctuation during that meeting indicates that he is having second thoughts about placing all of his chips on Russia. At the moment, Beijing's continued attempts to play all sides are undoubtedly reflected in Xi's diplomatic two-step ploy. As characteristic of China's approach to international affairs, Beijing avoids making promises to its allies on the same level as the US does to its closest partners. This is because when it comes to domestic and international policy, China's authorities would rather not be bound by whatever agreements they may have made with other countries. Xi has made the policy an official part of the Global Security Initiative, which is his main diplomatic goal for changing the world order. He talked about the group's principles and said that countries should say no to the group politics and bloc confrontation. So we can infer that China will not build a new authoritarian bloc with Russia in the style of the former communist bloc, and given Beijing's dedication to such concepts, it seems unlikely that the two countries will ever form a meaningful alliance that would demand closer policy coordination or bind their leaders to mutual defense. Some analysts believe that Russia's leaders may really prefer things to stay that way. Despite the country's current difficulties, they believe Russian officials may be afraid of becoming too dependent on Beijing. However, a fair comparison cannot be made between Xi and Putin because the conflict in Ukraine has exposed Russia's decline as a global force, and Putin has been left with few options other than to reach out to Beijing due to Russia's isolation from the West. Of course, to Xi's benefit, as the greater China's strength, the bigger the imbalance, and the more Beijing may pressure Moscow to align its interests with China's, the more worried Russian officials may feel. From the dynamics of Xi's relationship with Russia, it shows China isn't a very good friend, and this will have serious repercussions for Beijing's efforts to expand its worldwide influence. But the big question is whether or not Beijing can accomplish its foreign policy goals with this approach. As it seems, China benefits more from the partnership than Russia does. But what do you think? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you liked the video. And until next time, bye.